So let's move on here to the market and just how volatile this market is these days. James Shelton, Chief Investment Officer with Canale Trust Company in Houston, is joining us to talk about the market and his outlook for it. Where are we going from here? How about that for a question to start things off? What do you think of this environment and where we go here for the next few months?
Good morning to you, Connell. Yeah, we think this market is playing out much as we had feared it would here in the first half of the year. Lots of volatility driven by fears of recession and what the ultimate impact of the credit market losses were going to cause on the economy. And we think that we're going to be in this environment for a good bit longer, potentially for the next 2-3 months, hopefully not longer than that. But the Fed has come to the rescue to some extent, pulling out all the stops to try to prevent a financial market meltdown. At some point, I think that the market is really going to respond to that. Right. But we still have some uncertainties out there that we've got to deal with here over the next couple of months.
If you saw this coming, as you say you did, how did you prepare for it, and how are you profiting off it now, or are you?
Yeah, well, we became concerned about this beginning in October and November of last year. And so what we did was, one, we raised a little bit of cash to stay on the sidelines and just moved the portfolio to a little bit more of a defensive posture. So adding more healthcare names in there, some consumer staples, continuing a focus on energy stocks as well, but just taking some of the cyclical exposure as well as the financials out of the portfolio beginning in the fourth quarter of last year.
All right, so you were able to get away from some of the damage that we've seen at the beginning of this year. Is there any thought to getting back into some of those names that have gotten beaten down so much, or do you just have to wait it out a little bit longer?
Not yet, Connell. I mean, when you look at the financials, there's no question that there's going to be an excellent buying opportunity. We don't believe that you can pick the bottom there, and I think there's still two big issues with the financials, mainly the banks and the brokers, meaning that we don't know what the ultimate impact of the losses are going to be. Meredith Whitney's piece yesterday was, I thought, fairly compelling, where there could be tremendous additional losses there. But I think more importantly for us as long-term investors is, where is the earnings power going to be driven for these banks and brokers in the future, when a lot of the activities that drove their strong earnings growth in the past, meaning subprime mortgages and some of the securitizations, that's going to be slow to come back.
Okay.
So we're in wait-and-see mode on the banks and brokers.
You do have to have a high appetite for risk, James. I mean, how do you know the time, and what are the factors you look at as to when it's time to jump in?
Sure. Well, let's just go back and look at a chart of the S&P 500, for example, going back to January. And what you see is some rallies and some sell-offs. And each time you see lower highs and lower lows. And to me, that's just an indication that you've got to continue to be cautious until that pattern starts to change a bit. So bottoms are a process. That I don't believe that they happen just overnight. And the market will tell us over time when it's time to get back in. But as long as we have this continuing pattern, it's time to be cautious.
James, thanks a lot for all the time today. We really appreciate it. James Shelton joining us today, and the opening bell is going to ring in a little less than 17 minutes. We got a couple of traders coming up.